And welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove. I'm safely back in Richmond, as is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. We did it. We made it back.
Atlanta was great, but it was good to get home.
Yes. Atlanta was great for most of the time we were there. Maybe one day too long, but still fine.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we made it back in time to watch the Tuesday Champions League games.
We sure did.
Match day 6, as they call it. Today's show, we're going to be talking Barcelona Spurs. We'll talk about Spurs' 1-1 win over Barcelona. And later in the show, we'll talk Liverpool's actual 1-0 win over Napoli. Both of them made the knockout round.
They sure did. And our commentators made that clear, that they both made the knockout round, specifically that Spurs had made the knockout round.
Yeah. So we had Stu Holden on the show last week, and he mentioned that they were going to do a new thing on BR Football / TNT / Turner Sports.
Gotta get that branding.
Yeah, and they did. It was definitely different, the Stu Holden, Steve Nash thing. I would argue that maybe they leaned a little too hard on Steve Nash being a Spurs fan.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, it's always interesting to try different things, and it's fine to try different things. But I think you've got to be a little bit more clear in your decision making, because it felt like there were some moments when, like, Steve Nash was asking Stu Holden a question while one of the teams was breaking, and that kind of like goes away from the analysis of the game when it's more conversational. Yeah,
so not to get too deep into just analysing the commentary, but it seems like, for me, I learned why there's normally a divide between play-by-play and colour commentary. Is it because it gives you a system to go back to keep things organised? It's like having a filing system.
Yeah. I mean, because you do have to have it a little bit organised, because you're at the end of the day, you're trying to convey information, and because they're in the stadium, you're able to convey information that viewers certainly don't have because of camera angles. So I think I understand that they want to experiment. It didn't quite work for me on the day.
Fair. Let's talk about the game itself then.
Let's do it.
So 1-1 away to Barcelona was the Spurs result. It was good enough because it matched Inter's 1-1 draw with PSV,
yes,
which actually is a surprise, right? You would have just favoured Inter to make sure to get that victory.
Inter at home, knowing they needed a result against a team that is bottom of the group, you would expect them to really be going for it. And maybe that's why they didn't end up getting the result. Maybe that's why they conceded early.
But in the end, this 1-1 result for Spurs was enough. And I want to talk about how they got it.
Sure.
And to give the big, brief overview, I think you agree, it's that Pochettino got a lot of things right, and we'll delve into Pochettino's Spurs tactics
that works for me.
At the Camp Nou. But also Barcelona helped them out a little bit by picking a weakened team and by certain players making some not great decisions.
Yes,
right.
I would say that's
because Barcelona were
fair.
already top. It was no big deal to them.
No, not at all. And that's why you don't have Busquets, Messi, Piqué, several other players not starting this game.
And there were kids starting, right? Miranda at left back and Carlos Alenia in central midfield. Is Munir El Haddadi, does he still count as a kid?
Sure, why not?
He's not Luis Suarez,
He's not Luis Suarez.
So what did Spurs do? What was the Spurs setup that, on second viewing, weirdly not on first, but on second viewing, impressed both of the people at this table?
It sure did.
Which is me and you.
It is indeed us. It impressed us. It was also something that we didn't quite pick up on the first time through. It was something you picked up on kind of right away when we rewatched. Was that Spurs, we thought they were just kind of in a standard 4-2-3-1. That's how it was listed.
Yeah.
I think you were correct in spotting that it was more of a 4-4-2 diamond in the middle for Spurs.
They shone bright.
Because it gave them numerical superiority against Barcelona's standard 4-3-3. 4 versus 3 is always going to be better. But then the other thing that I found very interesting was that they also deployed their fullbacks wide, obviously, but very aggressively forward. And then you would have, say on the right-hand side, if it was Kyle Walker-Peters getting very far forward on that touchline, it would be Sissoko dropping in and almost being a hybrid central midfielder or right back.
Yeah.
And so I think that sort of fluidity and change in position whenever it was necessary for Spurs really caused some problems for Barcelona.
It's a bit Paul Pogba-ish, wasn't it, what Sissoko was doing? Paul Pogba at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Also, we thought maybe Semedo got forward 10 times too many for Barcelona. Left a lot of holes at the back that Spurs were very smart to exploit.
Yeah, if anything, the entire Barca back line caused problems for Barcelona because, Semedo would get forward, I think thinking it was his job to either track or step to somebody, but that left space in the channels for Spurs players to then occupy. Son specifically would try to take up some space there. Harry Kane drifted over there too. But then it was also the Barcelona back line routinely was more of a jagged line than a straight line that you want to see.
Right, yeah, jagged line, exactly. Yeah, maybe we'll get deeper into that for the Spurs goal.
Sure.
I want to talk about Christian Eriksen. I think you mentioned the 4v3 numerical superiority, right?
Yeah.
It seemed to me that Christian Eriksen was the main beneficiary of that because he's probably the smartest player on the Spurs team, at least, in terms of finding space and making things happen. I kept seeing him essentially drift away from everybody else and find a nice big pocket of space.
Yeah. And the first half, that would be on the left-hand side of that midfield diamond. And then I believe just to start the second half, he and Dele Alli switched. And then Eriksen became more of that number 10, the tip of the diamond.
Yep.
And then Dele Alli went wide. And I'm assuming that was more to do with that Spurs expecting it to be a little bit more open and needing to run a bit more.
Yeah.
And so you put Dele Alli there, let him cover more ground, and you let Christian Eriksen kind of dictate play and find those passes in the middle.
Yeah, and I guess it's because if you're the left and the right side of the diamond, you have to shuttle over and do that defensive work that we talked about. So it's almost like, let's stop giving Christian Eriksen the extra responsibility. Let's just free him up. Let's let him go.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's about making those little adjustments so that if you're Barcelona and you've made your own adjustments at halftime, like bringing in Sergio Busquets and having him sit deep again, but now suddenly Christian Eriksen is there, maybe he has to step a little bit more. And as soon as he steps a little bit more, I do think the Kyle Walker-Peters substitution and the Sissoko dropping to right back, basically, Lamela comes on. I think that was also a pre-planned substitution at halftime. Sort of, again, around the 60th minute, you want to change it up a little bit and keep Barcelona on their toes, or I guess on their heels, basically. You want to keep them reacting as opposed to settling down and finding passes.
Do you want to get to the goals?
Let's do it.
Because the thing is, even though Pochettino set Spurs up really well, right? The first 5-6 minutes, there's a lot of Spurs finding some space. But Ousmane Dembele makes it 1-0 to Barcelona. And unfortunately, it's Kyle Walker-Peters' fault, right?
Twice, yes.
Twice,
because it's a Spurs free kick, served in, kind of headed clear. Sissoko is under pressure, so he heads it back to Kyle Walker-Peters.
Yeah.
We watched this a bunch of times.
Nothing wrong with the header, right?
Nothing wrong with the header. It's just that Walker-Peters takes a heavy touch and I think doesn't really recognize how fast Dembele is about to put him under pressure. I feel like a little bit it's similar to what we were talking about with DeAndre Yedlin on yesterday's show, and maybe just not quite being ready for the level of pressure, the intensity, and the pace of a player like Ousmane Dembele.
Yeah.
And so in this situation, Kyle Walker-Peters basically takes a touch back towards his own goal and then is just completely overrun by Ousmane Dembele.
Do you think he's thinking, I'll just take a touch away from the action, maybe then I'll square it to Harry Winks, who's back with him, or maybe I'll play it back to Lloris? He didn't think, Ousmane Dembele is going to come flying through and take that ball.
No, I think he definitely didn't think that. And then I also think, this is me psychoanalyzing probably, so grain of salt there, but I also think it was an element of he settles that ball, and as he's controlling it, there's that momentary flash of doubt of oh no, he's coming. Dembele is putting him under pressure.
Yeah.
And so once you're focused on that, you just kind of if you take your eyes off the ball or take your focus off the ball for a half second, that's enough to miscontrol enough that Ousmane Dembele, who's at full momentum, can capitalize.
Do you think what he thought was, oh no, it's not the Premier League 2, it's the Champions League?
Kind of.
It's not the U23s. Because he is playing, I know he's in the weird left-back position when this happens, but that's because the forwards were forward, the defenders, the centre-backs were forward for the free kick. He was playing right-back because my understanding is Serge Aurier and Kieran Trippier both had groin injuries. So he was very much the third-choice right-back sent to the Camp Nou to play against Barcelona.
Yes.
It was a big ask, and unfortunately, he came up short.
He did, because it's not even just the miscontrol. It's what happens after that.
Yes.
Because Dembele kind of charges to the middle. I believe he has Artur off to his left. I think it was.
No, I think it was Munir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got a player. We'll go with Munir. But Harry Winks is back as well. And so it is a kind of 2v2 situation. You can hold it up and be just fine if you're Tottenham. The problem, again, is that Kyle Walker-Peters, I think because he's scrambling and knows he's made such a high-profile mistake, he retreats towards the center in an effort to slow down Ousmane Dembele. But I personally think he doesn't realize how far central he's come.
Yeah.
So that then when he kind of shapes to force Dembele wide, because that's the way he's shaping up, I think he thinks, I'll make him take a touch wide. Now he's going away from goal.
Yeah.
And doesn't realize that they're so central at this point that if Dembele touches around him or past him, he's actually kind of in on goal. And that's basically what happens.
Wide doesn't mean wide in this situation, right? It doesn't mean I'm pushing you towards the touchline. It means I'm just giving you an angle to go around me to go to goal.
Pretty much.
And I think it's to Dembele's credit that he really spots that Kyle Walker-Peters has taken a weird body shape, taking a bad touch. And he takes that sort of, I think it's a weird left-footed touch to just poke it ahead and know that he can easily beat Kyle Walker-Peters. And that's not just a pace thing, even though Dembele is very fast. It's more a recognition of the poor positioning and an immediate exploitation of that poor positioning.
Because he's doing it, I think you spotted it, like he takes this touch in stride as Dembele is running. And that is definitely the awareness of, I've got this opportunity, I'm going to use it. I would
it's
say...
the two-footedness as well, right? Because a lot of very right-footed player would just be waiting to use their right foot. He can go either foot in any stride.
Absolutely. And I think maybe Harry Winks wasn't aware of how two-footed he was. And I would say it's unfair to blame any of this on Harry Winks because he is the one who's going to be posterized. It's going to be the gif of him basically sliding into and then out of frame.
He looks like he's on a slip and slide.
He does. But I would say, if anything, it's really good reaction. It's a really good reaction from Winks because once Kyle Walker-Peters is beat, it is Harry Winks recognizing like, this is a clear shooting opportunity. And he continues that run across, slides in. And if Dembele had shot first time, maybe he gets a block in.
Oh, and Winks had made the decision to abandon marking Munier because there's an immediate danger over here.
But sliding in, I think Dembele sees that coming as well, makes the decision, just as a nice little cutback.
Winks, pace as well, which is impressive.
Winks goes flying out of screen. Kyle Walker-Peters then has gone to cover Munier, but then has to change direction to try to get back. But that little change of direction and then re-change of direction is enough time for Dembele to get the shot off, and it's in the back of the net.
Kyle Walker-Peters has another go at slide tackling as well, right? So, Dembele could not have asked for more in terms of posterizing people and making this look really good for him.
Indeed. And then the final aspect of this that I think makes it like even more impressive than it already is, because yes, it goes in the back of the net, but it's worth noting, I believe he slides this underneath the on-rushing Hugo Lloris.
Yeah,
and to me,
between his legs, I think.
Yeah, but just to be able to pick that spot again and recognize like, there's a shooting opportunity
here. Oh, no, sorry,
here.
I'm getting confused with Mohamed Salah.
Yes,
this is not between his legs. This is underneath
it's underneath him as he's like diving out. And we've talked about this before, that's what a good goal scorer will do, is wait for the goalkeeper to leave his feet, and then you pass it underneath, because he did have Munier still off to the side.
Yeah.
But you really can't blame him for shooting since it went in the net. If it hadn't gone in the net, maybe you blame him for shooting.
So 1-0 to Barcelona in the 7th or 8th minute? 7th minute. Chucky Lozano over in the PSV Inter game does Spurs a favour, with a very nice, is it like a weird directional header?
It is. It's that sort of like let the ball's pace do the work. He just kind of stands up straight back and gets the head to it, tucks it into the far post.
So weirdly Spurs are safe even though they're losing and not getting the job done.
Yeah.
Spurs are still pushing for the equaliser, obviously, because you got to assume that Inter are not going to lose that game. Once Inter equalise, I don't know how much of this gets translated or communicated to the Spurs players.
Yeah.
But it becomes desperate, right? It becomes Spurs, at the very least, have to equalise to therefore match Inter's result and take second place away from them.
Because it's the equaliser comes for Inter Milan in the 73rd minute of their game, their kickoff around the same time. So you have to believe Spurs have to get some of that notification of, it's not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is when you start to see them press a little bit more desperately. And I believe that also coincides with when you start seeing Coutinho hit the post and Coutinho cut inside and get a shot. I think those periods kind of overlap directly of Spurs have to start opening up a little bit more, get a little bit more spread, Barcelona get more chances.
So what do Spurs do to sort of open the throttle a little bit and say, let's chase the equaliser at the Camp Nou?
First off, they get a little bit more direct. They make some personnel changes as well.
Yeah.
But I think they stop.
Oh, Kyle Walker-Peters comes out, right?
Yes, he does. And when that happens, Lamela comes in, Sissoko drops to right back. But you stop seeing so much of that. The right back and left back, right back now Sissoko, left back was always Danny Rose. You stop seeing them 40 yards up the field in the kind of Pogba France thing that we've been talking about. They're still getting aggressively forward. Don't get me wrong, but it's no longer the central players now dropping in and then the fullbacks getting forward. It's now the fullbacks getting forward.
It's more traditional.
Yeah,
right?
and
it's
the center
more like the midfielders are ahead of the fullbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so now you're getting bodies wide, but lots of numbers in the middle, and so you're getting more opportunities there for Spurs, and that's when you start getting decent shooting chances, some from distance, some up close. You get the Lucas Moura header when he comes on, where he heads it into his own knee, then works hard to get the ball off Semedo and gets another shot that goes just wide.
Yeah.
But you see that pressure and that intensity from Spurs starting to pay off even more than it already had.
Can we have a moment of appreciation for Sissoko at right back?
Sure.
Because he is the only player we've seen for a little while
Yep.
stop Leo Messi in his tracks.
He's the only one in this game.
Playing out of position, and after Messi has already gone past at least 2 or 3 players. And I really felt like, oh, here's the second goal. Because, sorry, if you didn't see this, Messi came on in the second half. It's like a weird Valverde intimidation thing, right? Oh, we're going to bring Messi in. Yeah. We've got a Hulk.
Yeah.
So he's gone past a couple, but Sissoko, I think, just stays calm. It's almost like if you don't read too much into like going which way Messi wants to send you, just stand on his way and put a foot on it. That's kind of what Sissoko does.
It is.
I know it's not that simple to tackle Messi, but he makes it look simple, which I think is the impressive thing.
Yeah. So you get Messi going at Spurs a little bit, but not maybe as much as we would have thought. Instead, it feels like he gets past one and then lays the ball off. And I think if I were to guess, to me that speaks to maybe he knows we don't really need 2 and 3 goals in this game. We just kind of want to kill it off. We want to keep possession.
We don't technically need anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think that, as has been the case as we talked about, Barcelona kind of give this game back to Spurs because it's not just like starting the kids. It's not just having a ragged back line and being a little bit wasteful in possession. It's also overcommitting numbers, and that's where the goal comes from. It's Barcelona trying to counterattack or attack down Spurs' left side, Barcelona's right, and it's too direct in this case.
Yeah.
If they just keep the ball and keep possession, Spurs are going to have to overcommit and start chasing and probably throw in a few fouls and maybe pick up a card here or a card there. But instead, Barcelona kind of dump into the channel, and it's really good work from Danny Rose to track that ball down, body off. I believe
Suarez,
it was
right?
Dennis
Suarez.
Yeah.
Not Luis Suarez, Dennis Suarez.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a made-up brother of Luis Suarez,
like
but
Barcelona played such a reserve team. It was like Luis's lesser talented brother.
Yes, his brother-in-law Dennis came in. I don't know why they have the last name if it's his brother-in-law, but whatever. But yeah, it's really good work from Danny Rose, and then it's worth noting that I think he wins this ball back and collects it maybe 10 yards from his own end line, and 8 passes later, they've covered the entire length of the field and scored a goal.
It's also Sergio Busquets' fault, isn't it?
This is a big one.
Yeah.
Because it's not just giving the ball away from Barcelona, it's then giving away all semblance of like defensive positioning. I really have no idea what Sergio Busquets is doing here.
So if you can picture this,
other than maybe he's a big Spurs fan and wanted them to advance.
For the Lucas Moura goal, it starts with the Danny Rose tackle you talked about. He lays it into either Lloris or the centre backs.
He drops it back to Lloris, I believe.
And Lloris plays it to the centre backs. Spurs are like pinging it around. The rest of the Barcelona attackers are sort of providing a roadblock, but not high pressure. Sergio Busquets, who should be the deepest midfielder, comes charging.
And was the deepest midfielder, key point there.
Comes charging out of central midfield to try and put pressure. And I can't remember if it's Sissoko or Alderweireld at this point.
I think it's Alderweireld who he comes at. But again, it comes at, like, Alderweireld gets the ball, and Busquets maybe comes 30, maybe 40 yards. Like, he comes sprinting all the way up and vacates all of the positioning in the middle, which wouldn't be such a big deal, except that one of the central midfielders for Tottenham is this guy named Christian Eriksen. We've talked about him once or twice.
Yeah.
Who's very good at finding space. And as soon as Busquets starts running forward, he sees Busquets do this, Eriksen does, and you can see him watch as Busquets goes by. He just kind of drops into that space and is now open for the outlet pass from Alderweireld. He turns, and now the kind of anchor of that Barcelona midfield, the one who's supposed to slow it down in the middle when the teams come counterattacking, he's not there anymore.
He is not.
Nope.
So I think, does Eriksen give it directly to Harry Kane?
I think so.
So Harry Kane has sort of spread out left because Spurs have an extra striker on at this point. I believe Harry Winks was substituted out for Fernando Llorente. So there's Llorente, Lucas Moura, and Harry Kane essentially up top. Moura comes from a little bit deeper and runs through exactly the spot where Sergio Busquets would have been.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the spot. And it's worth noting again, like, even if Sergio Busquets isn't going to be able to keep up with Lucas Moura at full speed, just stepping into his path or making him think about it a little bit, or at the very least, he can't smell the blood in the water, and he can't just go charging into the box like relatively unmarked. At least someone's going to be paying a little bit of attention. At least someone's going to block off that path, but nobody does because Busquets isn't there.
And here's the other problem.
I don't know why I'm so upset with Sergio Busquets, but I am.
Well, you could also be upset with Thomas from Ireland.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier, you mentioned a jagged offside line, a ragged offside line, or a defensive line. It's worth noting that was a problem because either Vermaelen or Lenglet, the two centre-backs, one of them was always like higher and deeper than the other. They never quite had the straight line. And that's a real problem where you're defending the pace of first Son Heung-min and then later Lucas Moura, who essentially comes in and does the same job. On this final one, Vermaelen's deep when Kane is played out wide. Vermaelen then tracks Lucas Moura for a little bit, but then panics and goes out to triple team
Yep.
Harry Kane, right? It's a triple team that he tries, and in doing so, leaves Lucas Moura wide open.
Yep.
He's the reason Lucas Moura is able to score this goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is because you've got to be there to score, and then you've got to score when you shoot. But Lucas Moura is basically wide open, 6-8 yards from goal, just to do the instep.
Yeah.
At that speed, it's always going to be, I would say, luck if a goalkeeper's able to save it, or a completely mishit shot, because it's not mishit and there's no luck to be had.
Yeah.
It's in the back of the net. So now it's 1-1. Spurs go through, and I think I have to say that goal really surprised me because it felt like, I think we talked about this a little bit in the studio. This felt like a game in which either this game or the game that also mattered in the group, it felt like a situation that Spurs were going to end up getting knocked out because they had been wasteful. It felt like, Inter are going to get one in the 94th minute, or Barcelona, instead of hitting the post, are going to put one in, and the Spurs will really rue all of these missed chances. It just, they missed so many, and they made some poor decisions here and there that I really think if it just, for me, felt all the world like, this is going to be one where Spurs really end up ruining the day, and instead, they find their way through.
Yeah. Very not Spursy, to quote a recent phrase. Yeah, It's really impressive stuff from Spurs in the end. From a Barcelona perspective, did any of the youngsters impress you? Say, like, Juan, I think it's Juan Miranda, played left back. He's only 18. Carlos Alenya is only 20, played in central midfield. I guess it was Dembele is technically one of the kids, but we kind of know about him.
Well, he was,
right?
but he was one who there were some question marks as to whether or not he would play in this game.
Dembele.
There have been some disciplinary issues. I think he showed up late to training.
Oh, okay.
So I think, he again reminded us why he might be frustrating for Barca fans or for the Barcelona front office, but he is still a very good player. I mean, all the kids seemed okay for Barcelona, but I think we diagrammed one, not on air, but just like you and me in studio, where
it's just what we do for fun.
Yeah, it is. But it was I think Carlos Alenya gets the ball on the right-hand side, and if this is a normal full-strength Barcelona team, he chips the ball to the back post where, again, I think it was Artur. I keep wanting to give Artur credit, but for sake of argument,
I think it was Munir again.
This time I don't think it was, because I think he had the haircut there. But I think it's him waiting at the back post with his hand in the air, and the ball just doesn't come. We've seen this so many times.
And then you shoot, right? Instead he cuts and shoots from the top of the box.
But we've seen it a million times of the ball kind of gets played like parallel to the front of the goal from 25 yards out, like from left to right, and then Messi just kind of one-time chips it over the top for usually Jordi Alba running in, and he hits that one-time shot. And in this case, instead, Carlos Alenya takes a touch, cuts inside, then takes the shot. It is deflected for a corner, but it isn't quite that kind of the fluidity of the possession and attack that we come to expect from Barcelona.
I find it interesting to see Alenya look obviously very talented, because he had some moments where he had turns that just confused everybody and passes that split people, but then you can then see the lack of experience in terms of making the right decision at the right time. It seems to be the standard for being an actual Barcelona player. You know what I'm saying? So he's got a little ways to go. Miranda, the left back, I felt like just no mistakes, right? It was kind of a basic game, no mistakes. I think that's fine for an 18-year-old left back. Because the alternative is to be Kyle Walker-Peters, where you have a very obvious mistake.
Well, it might have been because he was going up primarily against Kyle Walker-Peters that he looked okay by comparison.
All right, so congratulations to Spurs. Congratulations to Spurs fans. We'll know about the draw. I'm assuming Friday. I actually don't know. But they're going to be drawing one of the first-place teams. So there's no easy games. Let's move on to Liverpool Napoli in a second. But first, today's show is sponsored by Grip 6 Belts. GRIP 6 Belts.
We cut away to the Spurs fans at the Camp Nou numerous times in this game. They all looked very anxious. But if they were wearing Grip 6 Belts, they never had to be nervous about their pants falling down, because those babies were secure.
Because they got the badger teeth. They've got the Garandam T. That the belt is good for a lifetime, right? Good for a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for traveling. It's good for comfort while you're waiting for your plane to come, and then your plane getting canceled, and then you have to find lodging, and then your plane coming the next day. You can wear that Grip 6 belt through all of that.
To give a completely hypothetical
just a hypothetical scenario, for sure.
And if you haven't heard how the Grip 6 belt works, it's a different kind of belt, right? It's not a big chunky buckle. It is a nice slimline, ultra lightweight but tough belt where the webbing goes in the badger teeth and grips on and never lets go.
And it's
until you loosen it. You can loosen it yourself.
That's what I was going to say.
You're not stuck in it forever.
That's a part that we've never really mentioned, is that it is also very easy to loosen when you need to take it off. And I would say, not to keep going with this, but I would would say it's very easy to take off and put back on when you're going through airport security, for example. Again, it really does make it because you don't have to undo the loops and then kind of get the belt buckle through and then work it all the way around. It's nice and easy. Like just pull and it's out, and then you put it in the box and you pick it up on the other side and you slide it right back through and you're good to go.
It's a lot more secure than a Barcelona defensive line.
This is definitely true.
And it's a lot to than a Barcelona defensive line.
That is absolutely true.
Especially if you go to grip6.com/TSS. Grip6.com/TSS. I'll put a link in the show notes. You will find codes there to get 33% off a 3-pack, 20% off an individual belt and buckle. We mentioned this before, but the codes were accidentally turned off over Black Friday. They are very much back on and functioning now in time for the holidays. I believe this is our last Grip 6 ad read, at least for a little while. So if you're hearing this now, don't wait for another reminder. Do it today. Get yourself a Grip 6 belt for yourself or someone else for the holidays.
And one more time, that promotional code was, Mr. Grove?
The URL was grip6.com/TSS, and then the promotional codes are listed on that website.
Alrighty. Well, thank you to Grip 6 for sponsoring today's episode. Now let's go away from the Champions League to the Champions League to discuss Liverpool's 1-0 win over Napoli.
And that 1-0 win was courtesy of a Mohamed Salah goal, his fourth in 2 games. I'm sure everybody listening is good enough at math to remember he had a hat-trick against Bournemouth, so 1 goal against Napoli.
Yes. I think 1 or 4 from 1 means 3.
Certainly does.
Something like that.
Significantly better than Sadio Mane's return in this game.
Yes. Yeah.
He had a rough day.
Yeah, we looked it up, expected goals in this game, because it did feel like Liverpool should have won this handily, and it shouldn't have been as close as it was and required like last-second heroics. And that was correct. Liverpool's expected goal were 3.4 to Napoli's 0.9. Oh. So it's weird, though, because if they had scored those 3, and if Napoli had scored that 0.9, close to 1, 3-1, that still would have been enough to advance. So it kind of doesn't really matter.
There was an odd mathematical thing in this game, right? Where 1-0 was great, but if it was 2-1 or 3-2, then Napoli would have been better head-to-head on away goal. So then Liverpool would have had to win by 2 goals.
Exactly. Yeah, which is why I think the commentators kept saying every time Liverpool did miss some sitters, Sadio Mane missed 2 in the final 5 or so minutes, and they were both like, strangely, if you're killing time, that actually works better.
Aim higher. Aim even higher, Mane.
That's what he said, I think. But the downside to that would be that that you're not playing in an amateur league where if you shoot the ball past the goal 40 yards, somebody has to run and go get it and bring it back.
Yeah.
This time, if you miss, there's a ball boy, ball girl right there just to throw that ball back in play.
Although I would say if you're the Anfield ball boy, ball girl, you're maybe not going to be as fast as if you're the Napoli ball boy, ball girl.
So I think it doesn't save you that much time. You'd probably rather have a goal in there, and that kind of kills it off somewhat more.
Should we talk about that goal?
Let's do it.
That Mohamed Salah goal. So we should say, just so everybody knows, that we most of our attention was on the Spurs-Barcelona game. Some of our attention was on the Liverpool-Napoli game. We went back and rewatched little chunks, but we haven't seen this in the exact same level of detail as we have the Spurs game. But it does look like this goal comes down the right side, obviously, because Mohamed Salah's on the right side of the front 3. It looked like Liverpool were working Napoli's left side, Liverpool's own right side.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm choosing to believe that's because Napoli had Rui and Ruiz on that left side, and I think maybe Liverpool just thought that was one person. And so they're like, oh, they're short-handed down this side.
I mean, did you think maybe Rui's not that great, we can work him? Because he's the guy that Salah really does just shrug off before he takes on Koulibaly? Or is it like Mohamed Salah's the man, he's on fire, let's work it down the right side?
I think probably some combination of those two. And I honestly do think if you... looking at the statistics, I believe Callejon, on the right midfielder for Napoli, is their leader for assists this season.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an
element
away from
him.
If you're Liverpool and you know you've got to get the result to make sure to advance, period, then you're going to be a little bit more aggressive, and maybe you want to make sure you keep the ball away from the person most capable of hitting you on the break and causing you problems.
All right. Well, let's talk about the man that caused Napoli problems, Mohamed Salah.
Let's do it. Because I will say, from everything I saw, backed up by the few things I read, it did not sound like Liverpool had a good game from a finishing standpoint. The defense was very solid. I think it was good through the middle, good through the fullbacks, but the front 3, it felt like were a little bit wasteful at times. Even Salah, he gets the goal, but he also has the one where the ball's played in. I think I don't know, even I shouldn't say in form, because as you said, he scored 4 goals now, but just Salah takes a little bit of a heavy touch. It's easily collected by Ospina, and it feels like on another day he finishes that one time or takes a touch and then just deftly finishes. And so it was a little bit wasteful from Liverpool, except for the time when they weren't wasteful.
So here's how the goal works out. He is being marked by Rui, who's the left back, And Koulibaly, who's the left centre-back, is also very aware of Mohamed Salah. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's not quite a double team, but it's almost that Koulibaly is the extra man just in case Rui gets beat.
Yeah.
That's Napoli's plan. That kind of breaks down on this goal because he just beats both of them.
Well, he does. I think it starts, though, in my opinion, with Liverpool moving it around a little bit. And I think Koulibaly just tries to kind of do two jobs. He's still trying to fill a little bit in the middle and be that central defender, but also cheat out a little bit to make sure he's helping out with Salah. But enough of a gap forms, that little tiny gap, that when the ball is played in, Salah is able to kind of back into Rui and then turn in the same motion. And I think Koulibaly definitely doesn't cover himself in glory after that pass, but before that, I think it's Rui. I think maybe just trying to back himself physically that causes problems here, because he puts like a hand on Salah's shoulder, and I think is trying to kind of like just give him a little bit of a tug, and then he'll reach around and get the ball. And Salah, I don't know if it's his strength or if Rui just doesn't have good positioning, but he basically overcommits in like trying to force Salah one way and then kind of slips off, and that's why I think it looks like he's been fouled. That's why he complains.
It looks like Rui's been fouled.
Yeah, because basically he tries to pull and misses, and then he goes like sliding off in the wrong direction. And at that point, I feel like if you've made that big of an error, you might then be like, oh, I was definitely fouled. That's why I've made such a horrible mistake.
This won't be on Rui's highlight reel.
No. But then I think the issue becomes, now it's Salah versus Koulibaly, but Koulibaly, as I said, is maybe just a yard or too far away. So now he's trying to close that gap, and I think Koulibaly knows Salah is very tricky. If I'm a little bit reckless or a little bit too aggressive, I could easily concede a penalty here. And this is where you see the kind of, I'll just stand off and try to shepherd him down the touchline.
Yeah.
But then I think he freezes a little bit. And again, Salah's able to, just with a little bit of a head fake and then a direction change, or like a speed change, is able to get around Koulibaly.
Because he fakes towards cutting, like basically inside, so he would have done like a very close Arjen Robben, right? When he'd gone across the top of the 6-yard box. So Koulibaly just flinches to try and cut that off, and then Salah accelerates down the line.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think like they're not the same. But like if this were Leo Messi, I would say this is Koulibaly being afraid of Leo Messi. It's being afraid of overcommitting or getting beat or getting posterized. And I think it's a little bit of that to a lesser degree. Leo Messi, slightly better player than Mohamed Salah, but I think Salah's still good enough that if you're that center back, you might have that hesitation, and that might allow the attacker to capitalize. In this case, it does. So I would say blame for Rui, blame for Koulibaly, but most of the blame, in my opinion, goes to David Ospina, the Napoli goalkeeper.
Why so?
Because I think he tries to cheat a little bit here, and he sees the angle that Salah is approaching goal. He's almost to the touchline, and I think Ospina just expects, and he definitely sees Salah look up and see options in the middle around the 6-yard box.
I think it's like Mane or Firmino is there, right?
That would make sense. Yeah. And so I think Ospina just assumes that cross is coming in, and so he starts cheating to like basically take a step out to then launch out and make the save, make a diving save.
Also, he'll block any ball that goes across the top of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mohamed Salah like deliberately spots this or just can see the peripheral, in his peripheral vision, can see that movement. And so
it looks like he's looking mostly down at the ball at this
point, does,
right?
Which maybe, again, is cleverness. But either way, I think he sees Ospina moving out, sees the opportunity, and Megs Ospina, who's already diving at this point, puts it in the far corner.
Yeah, Ospina's doing a starfish.
Yeah, it's not great.
And Salah slips it between his legs. 1-0 to Liverpool. Obviously, that is enough, right?
Yep.
But it still needs a big save from Alisson in the 92nd minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this got a huge reaction from the crowd, this big save. It got a big reaction from the commentators. It seemed like it split opinion on Twitter. Shock of all shocks, if Twitter had differing opinions, with a lot of folks saying...
Twitter opinion would be split on, is the sun hot?
This is true. Well, is the sun real? We have to establish that first, Daryl. In this case, it's Arkadiusz Milik brings the ball down, gets the shot off, and it's a save from Alisson. A lot of the Twitter opinion was, it's right at him. Milik should have just done better. Liverpool got lucky. Much as I would like to say Liverpool just get lucky because I'm a Manchester United fan, this is a good save from Alisson, in my opinion. Because it first of all, it seems like it comes from nothing because it's a ball in and Milik happens to get that foot to it. I mean, it's a good skill from him, but it doesn't seem like it's coming to anything. And then Milik controls that ball. And so I think if you're Alisson...
Really kills it dead, right?
Yeah.
This ball comes in at pace and he just has that one touch that takes everything off it.
And if Alisson were switched off or didn't have good footwork and weren't kind of up on his toes, he easily would have been maybe not quite as quick to get off of his line. And that's the key part of it, right? Is that he gets off his line, he makes himself big.
Closes all the angles down.
Yeah, and so just getting that extra yard, it closes everything down so much that yes, Milik hits it at him. But even if Milik hit it a foot to the left, a foot to the right, it's still going to be saved because Alisson is that quick to react.
Yeah, and this comes at a really nervy moment for Liverpool, right? So it's 4 minutes of added time. This is the 92nd minute. This is just after Dejan Lovren has just spooned a ball. He's come on to play right back. It's just kind of spooned a ball out of bounds. When this cross comes in, 10, 20 seconds after, I think Fabinho drops between the two centre backs, right, Van Dijk and Matip, and completely whiffs on a header. I would say he does not need to do this and get involved. He should have left this to the proper centre backs.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And completely misses and lets this ball fall to Arkadiusz Milik.
Because I would say, I'm not even sure he does completely miss. I think he maybe flicks it on and redirects it into the path of Arkadiusz Milik, which makes it worse, and is compounded by, hadn't he just given the ball away moments before that?
Yeah.
And so it really did, similar to what I was talking about with Spurs and Barca, where it kind of kept feeling like, ooh, they're going to regret this. There are going to be problems. Similar things here where it just felt like it was such a nervy finish. And this came after, in the 87th minute, Sadio Mane has that sitter, I would say, from 7 yards out that he puts wide. I mean, that should have been finished. And so you've got that. You've got the bad giveaway by Fabinho. You've got a bad giveaway from Lovren. Then it's bad positioning. It felt like, ooh, this might be the moment that Liverpool rue the day.
The big difference is Napoli actually cared. Yeah. Right? But I mean, Barcelona could let that game go. They're still top. It's just a few kids playing. Napoli are out of the Champions League because they did not equalise in this game.
There it is. Yeah. Yes. And then again, Sadio Mane could have killed the game off the 94th and misses that one too. But it's enough from that one moment of I'm going to say genius, because it's good vision from Mohamed Salah, and then a brilliant save from Alisson. That's all she wrote.
All right, so Liverpool go through in second place, top of the group, Paris Saint-Germain. I like to call them PSG, top of this group. Again, we'll get the draw later. There's still a whole match day to go on Wednesday.
What do you call them? Like if you were going to do the slightly fuller name.
Paris Saint-Germain?
See, I appreciate that you can do that. It feels weird to me to say, because it's PSG and it is pronounced Paris, I guess. So,
Paris, I think
but I would always go Paris, Paris or Paris Saint-Germain. I always want to do that. So to be able to say Paris SG, well done to you, my friend. It always feels weird to say it that way.
Just be confident even if you're wrong. That's my advice to everybody about everything.
Paris Saint-Germain. Nailed it.
So congrats to Liverpool.
Yes, indeed.
A little more Champions League to talk about and the Women's World Cup. But first, today's show is sponsored by Ruffneck Scarves, official scarf providers of US Soccer, Major League Soccer, the USL, NCAA, and this soccer show right here.
That is true. This soccer show right here has scarves available at Ruffneck Scarves, and winter is here. There's snow outside. Keep that neck warm.
Did you notice when we landed in Richmond?
I sure did. Keep that neck warm with a Ruffneck Scarf so you can support your team, support your favorite podcast. We're your favorite podcast, let's be real. You can do both, and you can keep yourself warm at the same time. What more do you need?
Yep, so the Total Soccer Show Hello and Welcome scarf. If you haven't seen this before, it has Hello and Welcome in big letters on one side.
It sure does.
And it's not it's not a special thing that you have to do anything too difficult to find. It's literally in the scarves collection on ruffneckscarves.com. You'll see Total Soccer Show listed as one of the categories of scarf that you can buy. It makes me very proud to see that.
That makes me happy that we're not in other or something like that. Or sale.
Sale. Well, it is kind of on sale because you can use the Total Soccer Show discount
what a pro.
to
what
get
a pro
20% off. So if you go to ruffneckscarves.com, any scarf that you buy, but especially the Total Soccer Show scarf, use the discount code Total Soccer Show, all one word. You get 20% off the listed price.
That is correct, my friend. Thank you again to Ruffneck Scarves for sponsoring today's episode and for providing the Total Soccer Show scarf, the Hello and Welcome scarf.
Hello and welcome indeed.
We've got Women's World Cup draw to get to, but we also wanted to talk very quickly about a couple other Champions League games.
Christian Pulisic got 2 MLS assists in Borussia Dortmund's 2-0 win over Monaco.
He did, and it's worth saying here that while they don't get credit for those, it is sometimes an MLS assist is I'll play the ball to Daryl, then Daryl
beats 7 men,
splits 8 people with a brilliant pass, and then the goal is scored. But because I sort of materially helped with the goal, I get the credit. This was not one of those. Pulisic, I would say, very involved in both of the goals, and I would say good play. Second one more so than the first.
Yes. Okay. So the first is a cutback that he gets, I think, a left foot to, slightly miscontrols it, then manages to scramble back and just get the pass away down the right. I actually can't remember the name of the player that he serves it out to.
Max Philippe.
Who then squares it for, I believe, Guerrero.
You got it.
Is that correct?
Yes, and I would say I know what you mean when you say it's kind of a bad first touch, except that I forget who squares the ball to him in the first place. But it is played. It's not even to Pulisic, I don't think, because he is making a run into the box and he has to change that run because it's played so far behind everyone. So he is adjusting at full speed and is able.
I think Goetze has run ahead of him.
Get it together, Mario. But I think Pulisic is able to adjust his run, get a decent enough touch that he can then, with his second touch, spread the ball wide to cause problems to get that MLS assist.
The second MLS assist he gets.
This one more impressive.
So he's on the left this time, and he basically just starts dribbling. He just starts. He
starts dribbling.
He does the classic, Ronaldo. Pulisic has this like snake move. He kind of does that snake move where he just like wiggles left and right a little bit, and then he accelerates down the end line.
That is why Christian Pulisic always looks better inside of a Nokia phone. Snake jokes. Yes, he gets down the line, and I think it is sort of the directness of the run. Because Monaco are maybe already on their heels a little bit, they're sort of backing off, and I think him being so direct in that approach works very well because when he plays this ball in, it is more or less right to, I believe, Kamal Glick is, but because of the run, because everyone's kind of backpedaling, it ends up megging Kamal Glick when it comes in.
So an accidental nutmeg to add to the list. And I can't remember who he gets it to, who then squares it, and Dortmund get themselves the second goal.
But either way, they get themselves the second goal.
Probably should have researched this.
And I believe it's Rafael Guerrero again with the second goal. So he gets the brace. Pulisic gets the brace of MLS assists.
There was another American in Champions League action who was not involved in any goals. But it's a good thing in this case because it's Ethan Horvath in goal for Club Brugge playing against Atletico Madrid.
And I believe held them scoreless, including a great save. I've only seen the clip of it, but I
haven't seen it at all. Please describe it to me.
I will. It's Antoine Griezmann cutting inside from like the top of the box, getting a shot off with the left foot, going into like the top corner at the far post, and Ethan Horvath does very well to get a big paw to it, turns that ball away, says no to Atleti. The point. They were already through to the Europa League anyway, but it's still, it's good momentum to have if you're Horvath. So they'll advance as third place in the group of Atleti and Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, do you remember the bad old days when Horvath was
in reverse order, by the way? Dortmund finishing top.
Got it. Do you remember the bad old days when Horvath was embarrassed by Portugal and then lost his Club Brugge starting spot?
No, that didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen.
No.
So good news. We have a goalkeeper in the Europa League. More importantly, a goalkeeper in a starting spot.
There we go.
For Club Brugge.
Well said.
Okay, one thing we sort of missed. Actually, I saw it, but we didn't get to talk about it on the show. The Women's World Cup draw was Saturday.
It was.
The US have been drawn in a group with Thailand, Chile, and Sweden.
Yes.
So Thailand and Chile, I'm really confident that the US can, like, not to be too arrogant, but they can walk those games because they kind of have already in the past 12 months. Right?
Yeah, against Thailand and the United States, the only meeting beat them 9-0 in 2016. Against Chile in August and September, they beat them 7-0 on aggregate in those two games.
So in Group F, the US has Thailand, Chile, and Sweden. Sweden is the tougher opposition.
Certainly, except that, like, I will say the United States really did get the most favorable draw. I think that they definitely could have, but in terms of even looking at this group, because you'd expect wins against Thailand and Chile, which means you get Sweden on the final match day when you've already secured qualification to the next round, most likely.
Yeah, so it's top two go through anyway, right?
Yes, but this is a Sweden team that obviously was the one that eliminated the United States from the 2016 Olympics.
For those who don't remember, it was the whole thing where they defended in a very Swedish 4-4-2 block. There was Hope Solo.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, they eliminated the United States and they eliminated Hope Solo from U.S. national team contention.
Right? Because they provoked, or at least they gave U.S. soccer an excuse to eliminate Hope Solo, which I think is really more,
which they might have been looking
the case.
For, but yes.
But I think that will be the big test in many ways, right? Can this new look US women's national team that Jill Ellis has spent, 2 years tinkering with the tactics and figuring out a whole new system that now has Julia Ertz as the holding midfielder, right? Is that enough to break down Sweden?
Yes.
But also it might not matter by that point.
It might not matter by that point.
But to finish top, right? You want to finish top of the group.
But it also might not be the United States, like that A team playing against Sweden, and it might not be Sweden's A team playing.
Yeah.
So then it's sort of like it could potentially be a let's say like a B plus or a B Sweden team trying to defend versus a B plus or B US team where you've got young players trying to prove themselves in attack. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty good draw for the US overall.
All right, so the Women's World Cup is in June. The US are in Group F. The other group that I've really got my eye on is England's group, Group D, because England were drawn with Scotland, So there's a grudge there, and it's also Kim Little, we hope. I mean, I'd rather, even though I want England to win, I want Kim Little to play in that game. I want Kim Little to play in the World Cup for Scotland. Argentina, who I don't know anything about and therefore assume they're not good, which is maybe not great research. And Japan, who we know are a fearsome team. So England have really got their work cut out in Group D, but it'll be fun watching them.
Depending on how good Argentina are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Scotland, the grudge match thing makes it, the rivalry makes that a harder game. And then Japan are good, so top 2 go through. It's already harder than it's harder than it is easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a mathematical formula.
Sure.
I just invented. Once again, Women's World Cup 2019 is in France and it starts in June. We'll obviously be covering every US women's national team game.
Yes, and very helpful of like CONCACAF and the US Federation to not schedule the Gold Cup right in the middle of the Women's World Cup. Just kidding, they did that.
It's going to be a busy summer.
It sure
I
is.
guess the glass half full way to look at it is there's lots of quality soccer to watch this summer, right? Because there's also Copa America 2019 and the Gold Cup and the Women's World Cup. So there'll be a lot of soccer to watch. There'll be no summer boredom at all.
I think there may be one more in there as well. So yes, it's going to be a busy time. It's going to be a busy time.
And if you want to get on board with the US Women's National Team in 2019, they'll be playing France and Spain in January and February in warm-ups. Those are good teams. France especially is a team I'm excited to see the US go up against. And then there's the She Believes Cup in late February, early March.
I think I saw reported this weekend. Forgive me, I haven't followed up on it. I believe I saw that they were doing like a 10-game send-off series as well to prepare the US for the World Cup or something like that. Maybe that includes She Believes and the friendlies you've already mentioned.
Oh, they might call the whole thing the send-off.
Yeah, that could be. Although it would be weird to have the She Believes Cup also be the send-off series.
Yeah,
but
it's too early. It's too early. I do
know
know there's a send-off game against Mexico in New Jersey. That could be interesting.
It could be indeed.
All right, so final thing on today's show, he said half with a question mark, just making sure I haven't missed anything, is the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. We have lots of updates for you. In the big roundup of exciting young talent around the world, Taylor, where would you like to start?
I would like to start with Stephen Kovac, scouting Theosin Jordan Sibachu, the 22-year-old French-American striker for Stade Rennais. Jordan returned to the starting 11 for the first time in 2 months against Lyon last Wednesday. He was lively the entire first half and was rewarded for his efforts when he slotted in a nice counter-attacking goal. Rennais went on to hand fourth-place Lyon a 2-0 loss.
Todd Brannan is scouting Cameron Carter-Vickers, CCV, the 20-year-old American defender on loan at Swansea from Tottenham. Todd says CCV subbed on late in the game for Swansea to help preserve a 3-2 lead over Brentford. It took less than a minute for CCV to be shown a yellow card, but Swansea did hold on after suffering 3 straight losses.
Yay.
So mostly good news.
There we go.
Mostly good news.
Brian Hoysa, very good news, scouting Sergino Dest, the 18-year-old American right back for Ajax.
It's almost always good news with Sergino Dest these days.
But even more so because Dest has signed his first professional contract with Ajax, and it goes through June of 2021.
I'm shocked he didn't have one.
Yeah. Well, I guess he had the youth amateur deal before, but now he making that money. Dest has been in their academy since 2012 and has recently established himself as the right back of choice for their second team, Young Ajax. He also, I believe, in the press conference or in the announcement, made clear that he expects to play for Ajax this year.
He expects? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, that's his goal.
I like his confidence.
I do indeed.
Also, first pro contract, his ramen noodle days are over. Michael Lazar is scouting Jordan Morris, the 24-year-old American forward for the Seattle Sounders, whose ramen noodle days are definitely over.
Yeah.
Because Michael says Jordan Morris has signed a 5-year contract extension with the Seattle Sounders. The first 3 years are guaranteed with options on the final 2. Reports on the exact dollar figure are mixed, but it appears to average around $1 million per year in guaranteed money if he stays all 5 years, with significant performance escalators. Thanks to MLS salary rules, the contract has been described as, quote, team-friendly, unquote, particularly in the early years.
Mm-hmm. And if you would like additional thoughts on Jordan Morris's new contract, go find Eddie Johnson's, I think, Instagram account is where he posted the initial one. But he's also pretty active on Twitter as well.
That is a lot of money for a player who's coming back from a very bad knee injury.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very true. I guess that's why you have the performance escalators in there, but even so, lots of money from Seattle. Michael Bate scouting Tierna Davidson, 20-year-old American center back for Stanford. Tierna Davidson has been named the U.S. Soccer Young Female Player of the Year. Even though she missed most of her junior season at Stanford with a broken ankle, her strong play with the national team was the catalyst for her winning the honor. Davidson should be back from injury in January and will attempt to make the final roster for the 2019 World Cup.
Unless I'm missing something, I'm assuming Davidson makes the final roster for the World Cup. She's been really impressive every time she's played for the US. Right?
I assume nothing, because injuries are injuries and re-injuries can happen.
Jonathan Fowler is scouting Tommy Redding, the 21-year-old American defender for Unattached FC, it seems. Jonathan says the Red Bulls have allowed Tommy Redding's contract to expire and have no intention of re-signing him.
I hope they didn't publicly state that. I hope they weren't
have no
not
intention.
only have we not, but we definitely will not. Mark Counterman scouting Christian Cappy. Is it Cappy or Cappis? I always forget
I
this
say
one.
Cappis, but that's because I don't know.
I think it might be Cappy. Let's say Cappis. Why not? 19-year-old American midfielder for Hobro.
Let's call him CC.
CC. Christian, CC, was in the 18 for Hobro this weekend, but did not enter the game with fellow American Emmanuel Sabi. He joined Hobro in November after MLS intervened from him joining FC Dallas due to homegrown player restrictions.
Oh, yeah, I remember all that. James Jones is scouting Andrew Carlton.
Here we go.
The 17-year-old American winger for Atlanta United. He might be 18 by now. We haven't talked about this yet, have we? Okay. Andrew was not in the 18 for Atlanta's MLS Cup title and also wasn't in a video that the club posted of their homegrowns enjoying the victory, says James. He was instead suspended for a violation of club policy. He also wasn't introduced with the rest of the team at the victory parade. He was reportedly out partying the night before the game and posted video of his evening to Snapchat.
Yeah. Very poor decision-making from Andrew Carlton. Even if you're told you're not going to be in the matchday squad, I think you look at the rest of the homegrowns and the fact that they were all involved in the celebrations.
Yeah.
But all
we saw George Bello, right? I remember
yeah.
looking for George Bello when we saw the celebrations.
And I remember looking for Andrew Carlton and being confused as to why we didn't see him. And then not necessarily putting two and two together, but wondering, like, what does that mean? And what it might mean is he's in some trouble. I think maybe he'll be the only person who's happy that Tata Martino is no longer the coach because he can start anew with a new coach.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Next scouting report?
Yeah. We've got Dennis Dugan scouting João Moutinho, a 20-year-old Portuguese defender for ... The 2018 number one overall pick had a decent, if unremarkable, season, and he was generally relegated to the bench by the end of the year. That might explain why LAFC traded João Moutinho to Orlando, getting Mohamed El Munir in exchange. That trade is now final.
All right. Matt Koss is scouting Lucas Toussaint, the 22-year-old French midfielder for Lyon. Despite his recent Lyon contract extension until 2023, Toussaint has seen nothing but starting on the bench and poor substitute performances in his last 4 matches for Lyon.
That might explain the 2-0 loss. David Bell scouting Diego Lainez, the 18-year-old Mexican left winger for Club America.
Who did Lyon lose to?
The Stade Rennais Jordan Thiago scouting report.
I didn't do the connection.
Lainez got the nod by head coach Miguel Herrera, to start both legs of the Liguilla semifinal versus crosstown rivals Pumas this week. Lainez made the best of his opportunity by scoring in both legs, creating multiple other chances, and generally looking dangerous and dynamic coming in off the wings. Keep an eye out for Lainez to play in the final this coming Thursday and then Sunday as America take on their other crosstown rival, Cruz Azul.
All right. Thank you, David, for that scouting report. Mark Ryan is scouting Gio Simeone, the 23-year-old Argentine forward for Fiorentina. Mark says Giovanni finally got a goal, his third of the season and a long time coming. Came off the bench and poached one after a long shot from his teammate Fernandez bounced off the post.
Hey, they all count. Everett Wolf, final
just ask Josh Sargent.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Final report of the day comes from Everett Wolf, scouting David Brooks, the 21-year-old Welsh midfielder for Bournemouth. Not a lot to report on the field, but Sky Sports did an in-depth look at Brooks' development, which largely focused on just how small and frail he was up until a couple years ago. Sheffield United took a chance on him, and as Blades assistant Alan Knill says in the piece, quote, "He just turned into an athlete all of a sudden. He just grew into his body," end quote. Which on the one hand, like, I get as being like a sort of interesting story of like, oh wow, this like kind of kid like developed and is now a pro. But on the other hand, it sort of is like teenager grew headlines. Like, it was weird. He was like younger and he was sort of short, and then all of a sudden he was slightly older and got taller. Who could have known?
When he was a baby, he was tiny.
I never thought he was going to make it as a pro when he was a baby. No pro has ever been about a foot tall.
All right, thank you to everybody.
You got to be able to walk as well.
Thank you to everybody for the scouting reports. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network, the way to do so is go to TotalSoccerShow.com/join. Sign up and support the show at $5, $10, $15, $20, $25 a month. You'll be helping Total Soccer Show keep the lights on for 2019 and getting involved in the Scouting Network. I have a couple of people who've emailed to say they haven't received their players. I am working on getting those assigned. I will say I'm flying home to England tomorrow.
Yep.
So time is tight.
So you'll definitely get it done tonight?
I might have some airport time. I might have some airport time to do some Scouting Network assignments.
You get some Amtrak time. with their
got some Amtrak time as well.
consistently reliable Wi-Fi that never kicks you off 30 seconds after it lets you on.
Does it do that?
Oh, do you not remember our ride back from Philly? It was just constant, like, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah.
Oh.
But then it helpfully won't then let you use your data because you're connected to the Wi-Fi, so then just nothing loads, and it's awesome, and I break everything.
Well, it's still better than Delta's Wi-Fi. All right, enough travel complaints. Just to say, I'm looking forward to being back in England, but we'll still be doing some episodes of the Total Soccer Show while I'm there. Right? We've already got a listener question special planned for later this week. What else have you got coming up this week on the Total Soccer Show?
Some interviews.
Some interviews?
People. Yeah, and that's all that people need to know. Yeah.
Am I not allowed to know?
You're not allowed to know.
Oh, fine.
Yes, we'll have a few interviews from a few folks this week to round it out as Daryl travels back to England.
All right. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again later this week. Taylor, much sooner.